We are Mike and Jeannie, and we restore old houses. In 2021, we moved to South Carolina and bought a 120-year-old Victorian house. Follow along as we put the polish back on this Victorian masterpiece.
Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House.
If you're just joining us for the first time, we bought a 130-year-old, we're not sure exactly, Victorian house, and we've been doing some restoration work on it, and we have 140 episodes that we've posted, so if you like what you see here, you can go back and watch some of those if you'd like. Today, we're planning on going back down to the wood shop, and we probably have another episode or two of chest building that we'll be doing there. We've been building a historical blanket chest, and that's been coming along nicely, and we're hoping to be done with that soon, so I can give it to my lovely wife here. And she can start using it.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, it's been a fun project, and we're glad that you've come along and enjoyed the journey with us. Now, before we do that, I'd like to show you something that we've been working on behind the scenes.
Today's program is sponsored by the generous support of our patrons. Your support helps to further our historic preservation efforts. For more information, visit patreon.com/1834 Restoration House.
Most of my career, I've been an audio engineer, and I've had a lifetime love of audio and sound and stereo. It goes way back to the 1970s. And this here is an amplifier that was built in the 1960s, and it was actually a kit. So somebody actually sent away, and they received a box in the mail, and it had all these pieces and parts in it. And they followed a manual, and they were able to build this thing from scratch using all the parts and pieces that were sent to them. Well, the days of being able to build your own stereo system are long gone. So I've been working on this project to build a brand new kit-built amplifier, and I'm going to show you the test fixture for this. This is not what it looks like when it's done. This is just a test fixture, but this is something I've been working on for the past few months in the background. My friends, this is a tube amplifier. Believe it or not, they're still making vacuum tubes. Believe it or not, they're still making transformers. And believe it or not, vacuum tube amplifiers actually sound really good. I think it's important to mention that this is a mono amplifier, and in order to have stereo, you have to have two of them. And this is what high fidelity is all about, right? Anyway, we just wanted to show you that and let you know that we will be making amplifier kits in the near future that people can buy and build and enjoy. Welcome back to our 1834 woodworking shop, otherwise known as the former dining room. In this series, we've been building a replica of an early American blanket chest. So we built the box, we figured out how to do box joints. We've got a nice cedar bottom on the thing, and now we're building the top. And in last week's episode, we had a problem where one of the boards had a bad warp and a cup simultaneously, and so we weren't able to just machine it down the way we would have liked to. We ended up having to cut that board in half so that we could machine it and still have enough wood left over. If you want to see what that's all about, go back and watch last week's episode. But that's left us with a small dilemma. Let me show you what the problem is. You can see here that these two boards used to be one board, and I had to cut them in half so that I could machine them down nice and flat. Now the problem is, because I did all the machining, it changed the characteristic of the wood ever so slightly, and now it's not perfectly square. You can see there's a gap there. And let me show you how we're going to fix that. I'm going to put these boards back on the saw and cut off just the tiniest whisker from these boards. But in order to make sure that they're the same, I'm going to fold them over like a piece of paper, and then I'll put them on here like that. That way the cut is the same on both boards. Well, let's see how that turned out. Well, the boards definitely fit better. Now, it did interrupt the grain pattern ever so slightly right here, but I don't think anybody will notice. Okay, here it is kind of mocked up. I'd like to talk to you about a couple of issues that we're up against right now and maybe see if we can figure these out. So I have 2 long boards. I have 2 short boards. And the issue here is, where do I put this and in what order do I do it? Now, isn't that an interesting wood grain right here? It's really beautiful. So the problem we're up against here is that the edge grain doesn't glue up very well. And so gluing this right here will work, but it's not a very strong joint. So if you go along the grain, they tend to hold glue really well. And those kinds of joints are much stronger than this kind of a joint is right here. So I think what I'm going to do is swap the order just a little bit, and we'll put these in the middle, and we'll do rabbet joints on all of these so that there's some transfer of load and also extra gluing surface. And what will happen is that this board and this board will help to support this board as well and put less stress on this joint right here. This is what I was thinking of in terms of building the lid. So let's say you have the 3 boards like this. We're looking down the edges. Here are your 3 boards. Now, the outermost boards are supported by the box, here and here. But the innermost boards have no support whatsoever. So what I was thinking is that if we cut this here and here, we actually make a ledge, and then we can cut here and here. And so these boards here would offer more support to the inner board, whereas the inner board really has nothing to offer. So we'll let the outer boards support the inner board. By the way, this is not a woodworking channel. This is an old house restoration channel, but woodworking happens to be part of old house restoration, and so we like to include a variety of different topics as we go along. I know that woodworking is not everybody's cup of tea, but then scraping paint is not everybody's cup of tea either. But we do a little bit of everything just to kind of keep it interesting. If this is not your cup of tea, I hope you'll bear with us and see how it turns out anyway. Here are the boards after we cut them. You can see that we didn't cut very deep into the edges of the board, and the reason we did that is because we don't want to take too much away from the actual overall width. And when we made the cut vertically, we actually went a little over halfway. That way there's room for the glue to set down in there. So if we did our job right, this should just lay right in here, like that. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and glue this up, clamp it in place, and then let it set for a while. All of our boards are laid out now in the correct position so we don't make any mistakes. I'm going to go ahead and glue up this side here, and then I'm going to glue this edge, and then I'll lay it down here, and then I'll go ahead and lay this one in place. What to do with the excess glue? Put it on the end of the next board, I guess. But it does make it kind of a sticky, gooey mess. All right. So let's put this down here, and we'll go ahead and lay this board. Oh,
Back off.
okay. So I'm lining up the ends here so that they're flush, and so that's all glued up, that's all glued up, and so we can go ahead and put this one in place too. And those two should be all right. So we'll leave that for the moment, and we'll go ahead and glue this up. Oh. Okay, I'll just tuck that under like that. Get it lined up. I want all the ends to be flush. On one side anyway. All right, let's take that rubber mallet there, and I'll just see if I can tap these two boards together a little better. Okay, there's going to be a little bit of a gap here apparently. I don't know that we have a clamp that's long enough to hold that all the way.
No.
So we're just going to accept that. It is what it is. And I think what we need to do now is put some weight on here. So let's grab a couple of toolboxes and weigh this down really good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tap this down. Oops. And now we walk away and come back in about an hour. Okay, it's been about an hour. Let's take these off. Okay, here's the top. What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good.
Yes.
Now we have a tiny bit of a gap right here, but remember, this is semi-rustic furniture.
Yes. Just the way I like it.
We took the top out and sanded it up really good, so now it's nice and smooth and flat. So the places where the two boards come together are now perfectly level, which is great. Now, when we cut these boards in the last episode, we tried to get them as close as we could, but it's never really possible to get them perfect when you're using a skill saw. So what I'm going to do now is run them through the saw here and try to get them to be absolutely flat. Here's the blanket chest up on the saw, and here's the top, which goes on like this. Now the back side is flush because we'll have some hinges that we put on here, maybe some wrought iron hinges or something like that, kind of rustic, kind of traditional. And then we have a little bit of reveal here on the edge and some reveal here on the front. And that way we can just lift it up like that. So the only thing left now is to build the bottom. And then we have to go back when we're all done here, just kind of break the edges a little bit because it's too sharp. You really need to soften these up a little bit. And the corners here need to be softened up too.
This looks amazing. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, it's getting there. We've been doing some research into historical wood finishes, and we've probably spent months and months just watching other people on video and looking at websites and looking at different things on the internet to see if we can figure out what the old timers did. And information out there is pretty scarce.
Yeah.
And we've even read some books, and even a lot of books on restoration. They talk about, go down to your hardware store and buy some whatever brand off the shelf, and that's not really how we want to do this. But I do have a couple of ideas, and so we'll be trying a couple of techniques that we think might be historically accurate and might just work, but we're going to practice on scrap before we ever try it on the real thing.
Oh yes, please.
Yeah, definitely. But this is a lot of fun. I love putting wood through the machines and having something come out beautiful like this. We are up against the clock and we're out of time again, so we're going to have to stop recording and go take care of some things.
Yes.
But we're glad you stopped by, and we're glad that you're following along in this journey.
Thank you for watching 1834 Restoration House.